This morning. Hey, Boomer.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm just going to tell your listeners what you want to follow now is a thing called Tankathon.com. And you just want to see, where you go in the order of the draft. And right now, you guys, I think, are 5th overall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an odd thing. There's an actual team that is showing you that they're tanking in the Washington Commanders, and then we lose to them. So I don't know how you explain that, Boomer.
Yeah, it was. Look, I even discussed the game, the end of the game. The ball off Smith-Schuster's hands. I mean, I feel bad for Mac Jones, but it's the NFL. You don't have really time to feel sorry for yourself or feel sorry for anybody else. And if I were Bill Belichick, I would have put that team on the plane to Germany last night and said, let's go. We're getting the hell out of here, boys, because it's going to be a rough week for them. And I don't know when they're leaving, but it's man, it's a rough time right now. I mean, for you guys, for the New York Giants, I mean, for Carolina, Chicago, I mean, these are all the teams that are going to be in line to get one of these top quarterbacks come the draft next year.
I mean, how many additional wins do you see this Patriots team getting the rest of the season?
Well, they play the Giants. So, I mean, the Giants are awful. They can't do anything offensively other than Saquon Barkley. It's some of these teams are in really bad shape. I think Carolina, too. I mean, their defense is getting shredded. Their young quarterback is really struggling. Arizona will get Kyler Murray back, so I don't know how many wins they'll have. I look at their Arizona schedule. It's just brutal. I mean, it is absolutely brutal. So I think there's a very good chance they're going to hold on to that number 1 pick, but everything out of Arizona is saying that they want to build around Kyler Murray just simply because he's got this albatross of a contract. And if that's the case, then maybe they'll trade the number 1 pick to somebody. But right now, it's a race to the end to get that number 1 pick and draft Caleb Williams as the next quarterback of someone's franchise.
Boomer, in your mind, how ridiculous was that roughing the passer call on KJ Henry?
No, it is ridiculous. I mean, here's the thing, and I'll say this to you guys, and I've said it here at weei-fm. The inconsistencies with the officiating when it comes to a number of different calls in a game is really mind-boggling from around the league. So we sit in the studio, we see all the games, we get to see them all in real time. We get to hear our Gene Steratore, our official, give his point of view on different things. Now, I know this game was on Fox yesterday, but the point being is that the one big inconsistency all across the league is roughing the passer. It's unreviewable, and the league tells the officials, if you think there is any hint of roughing the passer, throw the flag, and we don't care. The other thing going on now is this little ditty that they put into the league about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, and it's called expedited replay, where the fans have no idea why the officials are doing what they're doing on the field. They're being told from New York what to do, where to place the ball, whether or not it was a grounding, whether or not it was somebody was out of bounds or in bounds, and maybe the referee got the call wrong or the official got the call wrong on the field. And somebody in New York is in their ears all game long trying to get the calls right, but there's no transparency with it.
Boomer, is there any way that, I know Bill Belichick has always talked about making everything reviewable, but is there any way to kind of be able to look at a play like that and have it come back and be overturned, roughing the passer? I know they do a little bit of that in college football where they pick up a flag if they find out it wasn't helmet-to-helmet hit.
Well, I think Jim Irsay is saying the same thing, or at least was saying the same thing about 4 weeks ago, and all these teams are frustrated. Owners, coaches, players, fans, we're all frustrated, and I don't want to sit here and blame the officials. I mean, it's a hard game to officiate. It's fast. There's so many different rules. There's so many different things that go through these guys' heads, their responsibilities on the field. The roughing the passer thing, I don't think they're ever going to change. We had, I think, 7 or 8 rookie quarterbacks playing yesterday, up to 10 backup quarterbacks made it onto the field yesterday. They don't want guys like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I'm going to say Mac Jones. You could laugh at me, but they don't want the starting quarterbacks off the field. They want those guys on the field, and they're going to protect them any which way, Jermaine. I know it's frustrating for the fans out there. It's certainly frustrating for us as broadcasters. And to try to explain it every morning, the different things that go on around the league and the inconsistencies is really becoming mind-numbing to me.
Boomer, when you look at the last two games, it's been back-to-back scuffles on the field when it comes to the Patriots and their opposing team. Is this just frustration boiling over when you look at these Patriots players and they know that their hopes for a postseason are out the window and they don't feel like they can get anywhere?
100%, Courtney. I mean, it's human nature. Nobody wants to be on a losing team. Unfortunately for me in my career, I think I spent time on at least 5 losing, maybe 6 losing teams out of a 14-year career. And it becomes monotonous, it becomes tenuous, it becomes stress-filled. The coaches are trying to do everything they can to ramp up the players. Interesting watching Josh McDaniels get fired last week in the middle of the week and then having Antonio Pierce take over. And the first thing he does, he's blasting, NWA at practice, trying to up the morale of the team. And that team, fortunately for them, they caught the Giants at the right time, and unfortunately for Daniel Jones and the Giants, he's going to be out for the year. It looks like with a very serious knee injury. But at the end of the day, when you see the Raiders under Antonio Pierce compared to prior being under Josh McDaniels, there was a definite different set of morale. So I don't think that's going to happen with the Patriots moving forward. They just got to figure out how to get a win, and and Bill's got to figure out how to, stop the bleeding. It's almost impossible, Courtney. It really is. It's just human nature for the players to be upset.
Boomer, why should we view the Patriots with Bill Belichick as any different than the Raiders with Josh McDaniels? Because everything I read about the dysfunction alluded to the inability to relate to the players feeling unhappy with how they were coached, the overly disciplined nature of Josh McDaniels. Those are all things here on full display with Bill Belichick in the absence of Tom Brady.
Well, it just goes to show you the greatness of Tom Brady and truly how he and Bill formed the greatest coach-quarterback tandem in the history of the league, and how Tom was willing to take open criticism from Bill in meetings. I know that Tom had said to Phil Simms at one time when Phil Simms was covering one of their games and they had one of their pregame meetings, Tom came in and said, you would think that I haven't done anything around here the way I get treated. Now, as part of that's funny, but a part of it is really, if your best player is as dedicated as the greatest player in history as Tom Brady, then it's easy for everybody else to follow. Some of these things that Julian Edelman's putting out on Instagram and on the Inside the NFL show are pretty funny when he starts telling stories about what was going on internally with the Patriots. But all that was going on internally because the most important position was completely locked up by the greatest player of all time. So Mac Jones is nowhere near that. It's not, the personality's not there. Unfortunately, the performance is not there. The credibility's not there. And the respect factor that Tom Brady had in that locker room for all of those years is something now that when we look back on it, we realize just how imperative it was for them to win. So I would just say moving forward, if it's Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix, I don't necessarily know that there will be another Tom Brady who was committed to the craft as much as he was.
Bill had both J.C. Jackson and Jack Jones on the bench to start that game yesterday. That's obviously disciplinary based on, when you look at who he has out there available. Does that tell you that there's an issue going on with guys in the clubhouse?
It could be. This is a different group of people nowadays playing football than when I played. And, Phil Simms yesterday was saying, could you imagine Bill Parcells, how he would react to me if I had my own podcast every Monday after a game? Oh, my God, his head would explode, and I would never see the field. Players have changed. I think the game has changed significantly. I'm not saying it's passed Bill by because I think Bill in the middle of the early 2006, 7, somewhere around there, he went to that spread offense when the rules changed in the secondary. And, he was always somebody that was able to keep up with the Joneses, if you will. But then again, like I said, he had the greatest player at the most important position. So it's easy to, throw everybody out there if the number one guy is leading the troops the way that Tom did. So there could be issues in the locker room. There could be some sort of disciplinary action happening yesterday. All I could say is that the Raiders look completely different under a different set of rules and circumstances, and I'm sure they're feeling a hell of a lot better today than they did last week at this time.
Boomer, how difficult is what Josh Dobbs did yesterday for the Vikings?
Josh Dobbs was amazing. 20 of 30, about 150 yards, 2 touchdown passes. He ran in a touchdown pass. He got to the Vikings on Halloween and turned into a superhero. It's amazing what he did. And, very few people, there was another player that did it, I want to say Bernie Kosar, I think, did it for the Browns and the Cowboys when he got moved to the Cowboys after Bill Belichick, I think, jettisoned him from Cleveland. That's how long ago it's been for somebody to do something like what Josh Dobbs did. So it's remarkable not knowing the offense. But I don't know if you know this. He goes by, Josh Dobbs, rocket scientist. I think he's some sort of aeronautical scientist and is extremely bright. So maybe it was a little bit easier for him to understand the game plan than many.
Boomer, after the game, Mac Jones, we can talk about, how he speaks to media on and on. But yesterday he was asked how difficult it is to remain confident in the offense. And his response to me, he said, yeah, it's tough. I think the biggest thing is remaining confident in yourself. When you do everything you can every day, you should have no regrets. I have no regrets. Should he have some regrets? It just seems like after every game, it's a me show, and unless we need to do better.
Yeah, I know I know what it sounds like, Courtney, but I also know that you want to project that you're not losing your confidence publicly because, quite frankly, everybody on that team, family members, coaches, family members, are watching what everybody is saying after the games. I'm sure a lot of teammates are going home and they're all sitting there going, this guy's no Tom Brady, and I'm sure they're having a little bit of a discussion about the way that he is conducting himself. Although I haven't seen anything that I wouldn't appreciate as a teammate of his. I think he's trying to keep a stiff upper lip. He's trying to be a confident leader. I mean, in the eyes of many, I'm sure that this is probably going to be his last year there in New England. But, he's not going to go down without a fight, and I think that's kind of where he's at right now mentally.
Question of the week for Boomer is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the trusted source in Greater Boston, the North Shore, and all of Cape Cod for home heating, oil delivery, and HVAC work. It pains me to have to ask this, but is it possible that Travis Kelce can't play unless his boo is there, Boomer?
Yeah. You know what's amazing to me is that, Brittany Mahomes has slid herself right in there, man. They're hanging out in New York during the week and everything. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. All I can tell you, it's been a lot of fun. Maybe that is something that is very important. Maybe he's being distracted by the fact that she's not around.
And how does Mike McCarthy still have a job this morning?
I don't know. Dak played great yesterday. I mean, that was a hell of a game. That's one of those division games where both teams are really good. Both teams are going to make the playoffs. I mean, you can't just hang your hat on one game. I know that Mike made some dumb mistakes yesterday. They as the Cowboys made some dumb mistakes, but I thought Dak played his ass off yesterday, and I'm sure he'll hear it again. It's going to be a long week for him, but they're too good not to be in the playoffs.
All right, Wiggy has one more, I think.
No, Boomer, I know you had mentioned this earlier, but I think that a lot of these guys, from being in this position myself before, I think it's very difficult, regardless of who the coach is, to motivate guys when they know there's no light at the end of the tunnel. The only thing I see is guys who are playing for contracts. Guys who got contracts are doing their best not to get hurt. So I think when you look at it, I just think it's human nature when you start to look at this football team that maybe you're going to see some guys start to check out, especially when they know they don't have anything to play for.
What about checking out when you're liking a tweet that says Jack Jones should have just pleaded guilty and been in jail? That seems like a pretty big leap.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Wiggs, you're right. There's going to be a lot of business decisions being made.
Yep.
And I don't know how, the coach will deal with it in a certain way. He'll either bench guys and bring up other guys and just give other people chances. There are ways teams can tank. I will say that I don't think the players ever feel that way. I know I never felt that way going out on the field. I always wanted to win the game that I was playing, and I had no regard for next year's draft. Now, the upper management may see it a little bit differently, and they may manipulate the roster or take some guys out of the roster and give their team a better chance to lose, and that may be the case. And like I said earlier when we started this interview, hey, Tankathon, that's where you got to look, and that's what you got to be paying attention to now, because that's the next Super Bowl victory for one of these teams to get Caleb Williams.
I've been looking at it for about the last 4 weeks.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize that.
All right, Boomer, thanks. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys, have a good week.